Hello and welcome to the Waffle Flower channel. This is Nicole and today I'm going to share a card with repeating background colored images. Instead of using the images to create a scene or as die cut elements and embellishments on the card, the images from the Sweets stamp set are going to be repeatedly stamped to create a background design. This is great if you want to create your own type of background. When I am creating a background like this, I like to start generally in one corner, it doesn't matter which one it is, and work my way out. So I'm gathering a bunch of the images from the Sweets stamp set, inking them up with some black ink that will be perfect for Copic coloring. I'm using the Misty so that I can make sure and get really nice crisp stamped impressions. And then I'm simply going to clean the stamps, move them around, and keep repeating these images. It's not going to be in the exact same pattern necessarily because I need to fill in all those little nooks and crannies with all of the images. So I'm simply going to position the images, fill everything in, and stamp until this entire background is filled in. This piece of paper is 4 inches by 5¼ inches. This is some Nina smooth white cardstock, so it's going to be a great cardstock for Copic coloring. If you wanted to use zigs, I would recommend Bristol, just depending on what different medium you want to color with. And you could do this with colored pencils. I think colored pencils on craft would look incredible. Lots of different ways to create your own custom backgrounds like this. You can see once all the images are there, this would even make an awesome black and white background, and maybe color a separate image on another piece of paper and pop it up next to an image, and that could be the embellishment for this. So it could be a black and white background. Now, before I start coloring in the images for my card, there's a small heart image. There's a small and a large heart image in the Sweet stamp set. The small heart is going to fit better, and I'm simply going to take the different Waffle Flower inks, starting, I used My Pleasure first, and then some Tickled Pink. I'm going to fill in with lots of different colors of ink, any of those little white spaces. This is going to add even more color, more interest, and more to the pattern paper, kind of quote unquote pattern paper look of this background. This is New Fish in Pond. This is my favorite color of Waffle Flower ink. I love it. It's the perfect aqua. Happy Go Lucky is an awesome purple. I'm going to fill in different areas. And I really used kind of all the colors of the rainbow. More, I would say, except for the red that I'm using, more in the pastel colors rather than primary colors. And I tried to pick my ink colors here to be similar in color to those. The green is Chirp Chirp. The orange is Oh Happy Day, or yes, Oh Happy Day. And then my yellow is You Said What. And these are just fantastic ink colors. I think I've mentioned it before, but it bears mentioning again. These Waffle Flower inks are some of my very favorite. They are just beautiful ink colors. I'm going to start with the little girl image here. All of the girls are going to be colored the same as far as skin and hair, and I'm just going to switch up the colors of their dresses. For the black hair, I am using some cool grays, 3 shades of this in C5, 7, and 9. And just kind of feathering those 2 darker colors in over the light. The light color ends up really only being a highlight. And then my color combinations here, the pink is RV 52 and 55. The green is YG 01 and YG 23. The orange color combination is YR 01 and YR 04. If I want to go darker with orange, I start with YR04 as my lighter color, but this is the darker color for these. Aqua is going to be BG 11 and 13. Again, I'm coloring with the greens here. I added those to our dress, but those are YG 01 and 23. My reds are R14 and I believe 29. Yes, that's correct. And then I'm just going to repeat this. The yellow is Y11 and Y08. A little more pink here. And I'm just moving around, trying to kind of build out. My purples color combination is V01 and V06. And I'm simply going to repeat these color combinations throughout the design. This is a great project to maybe stamp a bunch of backgrounds, and you could color them in the evening while you watch TV or a movie or something like that. I know a lot of you maybe go to ball games or other things where maybe you need something to do in between or while you're waiting. I have things like that a lot, and these would be a great little project to take with you that you could just kind of work on here and there until they're all colored. And it's a great relaxation. I think coloring is always so very relaxing. I'm going to keep coloring all of these images. I did leave in the coloring. I know a lot of times viewers like to see exactly how everything is achieved, even down to the coloring, to see exactly how everything is done. I sped it up a lot since it does take a little bit of time. This is not going to be one of those projects where you color a few images, you pop them on the card, and you're done. This whole panel is being colored, and while it did not take that long, it does take a little bit of time. By keeping my color combinations to a minimum though, about 2 shades per color family, that really does help limit like the choice. I just simply grabbed the 2 colors that went together and would color a section, move on to the next, so on and so forth. Now, the lollipop stems and the containers that the little treats go in are in shades of brown. This is E55 and E57. Here is another look at coloring the hair where I went in with my light cool gray 4 or 5 rather first, shaded in with C9, blended with C7, and that's it. If you want the look of hair, feather it in and don't do a ton of blending. You don't want to color over it and over it like you do with other images to smooth it out. The texture really comes with that feathering type look or technique. Even the little treats in the container, I chose, instead of making them look cake-like with maybe vanilla or chocolate, so kind of tans or dark browns, I went with colorful because I wanted this background to really be colorful. And I didn't want to pick any new colors. I thought I already had quite a few Copic markers out, and that was plenty for this design. Once everything is colored, I'm taking a white opaque pen and adding detail. So if the little treats, the little, like, I suppose they're supposed to be cherries, on top of the treats, if any Copic color got into the highlight on those, I'm going over it. I'm adding detail to the girls' dresses, highlights on some of the candies and the hearts. And I even went around and added white swirls to the lollipops. Unfortunately, I really love this look and I wish it would have stood out. I go over the lollipops with glossy accents, and I think a lot of that white detail got lost in that. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm guessing that the white pen I'm using is probably water-based, at least somewhat. And so when I added glossy accents on top, it kind of faded it out, if that makes sense, or dissolved that ink. So if you don't want that to fade, because I really did love how this looked, I would suggest either not adding glossy accents on top, or once the glossy accents is all the way dried, go over the top of the glossy accents with a permanent white pen and add that detail. I've got a piece of black cardstock here that I'm going to use with one of these stitched layers dies, and you could simply cut a rectangle or a banner or a strip, anything like that. What I love about this though is it's got that little stitching detail around it, which I think finishes off this little greeting rectangle so nicely. I'm going to use a anti-cling powder tool on this and then simply stamp the greetings sweets for the sweet. I stamped for the sweet first and then sweets on top using Versamark ink, and then I'm going to heat emboss with white embossing powder, which is one of my favorite things to do. It's so bright and white against that black background. It's going to pop against such a colorful, custom stamped and colored background. To help it pop off the background even more, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this with some foam adhesive. Put a couple of strips here on the back. And I'm going to line it up with the right side of the card. But before I do that, anything that needs a little wink of Stella, so like the candies and things, I want them to have some subtle sparkle. I want to make sure and add that before I add the greeting on top. The bows on top of the packages, I'll add a little sparkle to those. Then I'll remove the backing paper and simply pop my little greeting in place. You can position that anywhere. I tried to keep it from covering up any of the girls' faces. Not that it really matters that much, but I thought that design aesthetically or whatever, it looked better this way. I'm going to adhere that right to a white top fold card base. And then it's time for the final finishing details. And I love glossy accents for adding detail to these little hearts. They're going to make them nice and glossy instead of kind of flat and matte. Here's where I added my glossy accents to the lollipops, not really realizing it was removing all of the white until the glossy accents was all the way dry. If you have air bubbles in your glossy accents, I use the tip of my fine tip applicator to kind of pop those. You could also use a straight pin to pop any of those little air bubbles. I'm going to put some glossy accents on some of the candies as well, the cherries on top of the candies. And then on the greeting rectangle, I'm going to use some Nouveau Crystal Drops to add some colorful dots now. Instead of the clear accents that I've used on the background, I want to add some bright color that matches all of the coloring of the adorable sweets images there on the background of the card. And I've got these in some carnation pink, red berry, Caribbean ocean, and even a little dandelion yellow. And just do some nice little custom enamel dots here. They will need to sit and dry for a little bit, but this will add some nice color to that greeting rectangle. Thanks for joining me today for this card featuring a custom stamped and colored background. For more product information, please visit waffleflower.com. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more creative ideas. Thanks for watching.